welcome to the STIHL Timbersports Four Nations Cup at the studios of the Bavarian Filmstadt in Munich, Germany. At the first international pro competition in 2020, the athletes will compete individually in 6 disciplines. The best timber sports athletes from 4 European nations will compete for the title. These are Sweden, France, Austria, and Switzerland. Who will chop and saw his way to the top of the first Four Nations Cup ever? STIHL Timbersports operations were also not spared the consequences of the COVID pandemic. This time, the original extreme sport had to move from the large arena to a television studio. Over 2 days, the team set up the competition stage behind the scenes in the Bavaria Filmstadt so that the Four Nations Cup could take place.
The Nations Cup is a really good competition, so we can meet and compete again. It's been a long while.
Unfortunately, there are no fans, so the electrifying atmosphere is missing.
C'est une situation nouvelle, mais bon, on est quand même content d'être ici. C'est la même pour tout le monde, mais je suis enthousiaste d'être là.
In the first round, all 12 athletes compete in 3 disciplines of underhand chop, stock saw, and standing block chop. The times are converted into points and are added to the overall ranking. After the first round, the 4 athletes with the lowest points are eliminated. In the second round, the 8 remaining athletes fight it out in single buck and springboard for higher scores. Only 6 of the remaining 8 athletes make it to the final round. In that final round, the athletes compete in the hot saw. Here, the points are increased again so that everything is still possible. The winner of the Four Nations Cup is determined from the total number of points from all of the rounds. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut through a 32-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides. All right, here we go with our first heat. And normally we're going to see 2 guys out there, but as one athlete dropped out before the competition here, we'll only have 1 guy on stage, and that is Josef Laya from Austria.
Athlete, ready, stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And unfortunately, this will happen a couple of times during our competition here where we will just have 1 athlete on stage. It's tough for the athlete because he's battling against himself and, of course, the time, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to really focus and get going because that adrenaline just isn't flowing. Josef, a quick step down there, but he gets back up and continues to chop. Got to be careful, though. You cannot make an axe swing and contact with that block while your foot is on the ground. You have to have both feet up on the footholds there. Another thing you have to be really aware of is aiming that axe properly to make sure that you don't nail your foot or something like that. Now he's really taking a long time on these big heavy strokes from up top. A little hop of the axe on that previous hit there, and it looks like it's starting to loosen up. Finally getting through in 1:20.64. Oh, and that cut right there, that looks like it might be a problem for him because he was over the line at the foothold. And we move on now to heat number 2 in the underhand chop between Johannes Eriksson and Guillaume Maure.
Athletes, ready, stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So this will be the first opportunity to see 2 guys going at it head-to-head, and Guillaume Maure on the right-hand side of your screen there, really going quick with the axe as he is moving it a lot like the Australians do, and he moves over to the other side of his block very fast. Meanwhile, Johannes Eriksson is still on the first side, trying to go a little bit deeper. Perhaps he doesn't want to get through as far on the other side when he finally does move over. Gingerly he moves over, but it's the Frenchman with the distinct advantage, and he gets it done in a personal best time of 27:11. Johannes Eriksson still working on it, taking those big, heavy power strokes and not moving the axe very quickly. He's got it caught in there a couple of times as well, but it looks like one more drive. Oh, maybe I was a little off there. It's going to be 3 more drives to get him through that block, and he does it in a time of 45:06. there you can see the quick axe and final blow from the Frenchman Guillaume Maura. All right, moving on to our next heat, and it's Cyril Paps from Switzerland going up against Alexandre Maurice from France.
Athletes, ready. Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, this looks like a nicely matched up heat with these two guys hammering at a pretty good pace already. I don't know if we're going to see a super fast time here, but it's Maurice moving over to the other side. And look at how quickly he's moving that axe. Paps now joins him on the other side of his block. And the advantage, I would say, right now goes to Maurice, but Paps has got some big, heavy blows going down there as he slabs out some nice pieces. Maurice looks like he's getting close. It should be 1 or 2 more drives to get him through, and he's got it in a time of 30.6. Paps and does it in 33.84. It was a nice heat up to that point right there. And you can see here these two guys starting opposite of each other. It was a nice battle between those two, and we move on to our next battle between Pirmin Gnedinger and Kalle Swadling. Kalle Swadling right there from Sweden is definitely the guy with the advantage. His personal best is 21.33 seconds, and you can see he gets right in there. Both of them actually going at it with nice fast axe heads though. Nice big slabs coming off that block from Kalle Swadling. I like the uniforms from Sweden because you can always tell that they're from Sweden even when the camera angle is on the feet because they've got their flag on the leg of their pants, which is great as a commentator. Gnedinger doing a great job there as well on the other side of his block, and it looks like he's got that thing waggling a little bit already. No. Kalle Swadling does it in 30.88, so not his fastest time, but fast enough to take down Gnedinger in this one, and he's still working on that block to try and get through. Steps down, back up, and then one final blow with a time of 42.48. And that's a happy face of a man who just beat the other guy in his heat. All right, moving on. Christoph Geisler, the veteran, going up against one of the young guns, Ferry Swan.
To your timber. 3, 2, 1, go.
This should be an interesting heat. You've got experience against youth and vigor. Ferry Swan attacking this block with really quick hits. But, oh wow, Christoph Geisler on the other side from Switzerland absolutely going at it head-to-head with Ferry Swan. And if I look at their personal best, they're not that far off, but both just over 19 seconds. And this is going to be a really close heat. Ferry Swan coming close. Christoph Geisler does it though in 24.59, and Ferry Swan in 25.04. How close was that? Great heat here as we see Ferry Swan jump over to the other side. Watch right here. He almost goes off that block but uses the axe to hold himself up. But it was the experience of Christoph Geisler that takes this one down just ahead of Ferry Swan. All right, on to Armin Kugler up against Pierre Pouy-Barré. A couple of big boys with plenty of experience in timber sports. Here we go. Pierre Pouy-Barré on the right-hand side. Big axe stick for him. That's going to cause problems. And meanwhile, Armin Kugler has been flawless in his first few hits here as he tries to get probably a good solid 8 hits on the first side. And now they both move over. Pierre Pouy-Barré just ahead of Armin Kugler. It's looking good for Pouy-Barré, but he gets his axe caught again. All that power is not helping him if he gets it stuck in there too deep. And Armin Kugler is through at 27.12. Pierre Pouy-Barré with a time of 27.84. And I guarantee you, those big sticks from Pierre Pouy-Barré cost him about a good second in his overall time. So in the underhand chop, Christoph Geisler with the fastest time of the day, just ahead of Ferry Swan, and Armin Kugler with a great battle, which we just saw, sitting in 3rd place. Personal best of the day for Maura, and Josef Leier with a DQ because he did actually cut over the foothold line. And that is where we are with the overall standings as well after the first discipline. That will definitely change though once we move into the next discipline, which is the stock saw. As the points get juggled around, so will the positions in the overall standing, and that's where it's going to start to get really interesting. So pay attention to that as we move on to the next discipline, stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark, one downward and one upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks. Okay, Josef Laier up against Pirmin Gnedinger, and Josef is going to have an opportunity to redeem himself here in stock saw after a DQ in the underhand chop. Let's see if he can do it.
Athletes, ready. Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, focus is on Josef Laier, who is trying to get some points under his belt here. First cut looks good for Pirmin Gnedinger, though. He's got a little bit of a quicker cut going on. And it's going to be close to the top, but it is Gnedinger with a time of 11.69, just ahead of Laier. But Laier has 2 good cookies on the floor, and that means no matter what, he'll get a few points out of this discipline. All right, and here we go with another lonely competitor out there alone because of our 11 athletes only. Cyril Pops from Switzerland.
3, 2, 1, go.
Time to beat right now is 11:48. A little bit of a hesitation on the entry into that log. Big downswing as he comes back up for that second cookie. And his time is 11:28. Oh, very good time. Oh, yeah, right there you can see a little bit of a mistake getting in. Otherwise, he probably would have been a half a second faster. And that final stroke, but he's got 2 complete cookies and the fastest time of the day. Ferry Swan against Armin Kugler. We're going to see this battle a few times coming into the future, as Ferry Swan is definitely one of the up-and-coming athletes in the world of timber sports. Oh, great start by Swan as he gets in there very quickly. Armin Kugler has a lot of experience, so let's see if he can get there. Oh, but Ferry Swan looking silky smooth as he drops it in 11:19. Kugler's time was still counting, but it should have stopped around the 12-second mark. But look at this, a beautiful entry into that log, and how accurate is Ferry Swan here? Great picture of all that sawdust coming off that STIHL MS661 saw as we move on to our next heat. Kalle Swadling from Sweden up against the Frenchman Pierre Puy-Barré.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, a bit of a chunky start by Pierre Puy-Barré. Kalle Swadling was in there very quickly, though. But look at that, barely any downswing by Puy-Barré as he gets onto the upstroke. Oh, goodness! How close was that? Pierre Puy-Barré came from behind and wins that battle. Fantastic. And Pierre, you can see there, distinctly later into the log as Kalle Swadling was. And right here, just silky smooth on the upstroke by Puy-Barré. Fantastic. All right, another big Swede in the mix here. Johannes Eriksson up against Guillaume Maurer.
Ready? Stand to your timber.
Both of these guys have very good personal best times. Let's see if they can match him here today. Nice start by Johannes Eriksson. Great move up to the upstroke. And he has got this one in the bag. Good time by Eriksson. 11:21, not a personal best, but a very good time nonetheless. And there you see that second cookie after the upstroke. Good job by Johannes Eriksson to win that heat. All right, next up, Christoph Geisler from Switzerland going up against Alexander Maurice from France. Maurice with the fastest time of these two guys has a personal best with a 9.95. Let's see if he can keep up with that here today.
Go.
Bit of a chunky start by Geisler, but he is pretty quick through. Whoa, those cookies dropped at the same time, and both of the guys going for the thick cut on the way back, but it's Geisler with a time of 11.33 against a 12.11. All right, and we are under review here on Christoph Geisler's stand. A little bit of nerves happening here as they'll go to the video check, and it looks like they're looking for the placement of his hand on the log, or maybe a jump start. But we're all good, so we're moving on. Let's take a look here. Yeah, it was a pretty good start. I thought it was a little bit chunky by Christoph Geisler, but maybe that was just him getting that saw put in position right in there. You can see a really thick second cookie, but he did a great job to win that heat. And let's take a look at the stock saw. Ooh, Sweden at the top of the ranking with Ferry Swan and Johannes Eriksson in the first and second position. Personal best for Ferry Swan. And Cyril Paps from Switzerland also has a personal best in this one. And Pierre Puy-Barré and Christoph Geisler sitting in fourth and fifth respectively. And look how that affects the overall standings. Ferry Swan moves into the top spot, moving Christoph Geisler into second. Pierre Puy-Barré and Cyril Paps are third and fourth respectively, with Armin Kugler rounding out the top five. Standing block chop. At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 30 centimeters has to be cut through both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result. The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand-sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom-built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. All right, first heat in standing block between Johannes Eriksson and Guillaume Maurer. The Swede against the Frenchman, and this is an important one in the first round as it is the final discipline to gain points here before they move on to round two. And there you can see from the personal best times, Guillaume Maurer has a little bit of an advantage here.
Go!
And he does get started quite quickly as Johannes Eriksson took that first big blow and got his axe stuck in there. You can see, yeah, Maurer getting in there real fast on that first side, and he moves over quickly to the other side, lines up and sets himself up to go on the backside. Meanwhile, Johannes Eriksson struggling with a little bit of the fitness as he hasn't even moved onto the backside with those heavy blows. He's got plenty of power behind his hits, but it is Maurer just making short work of this block, and he does it in a personal best time of 27.74. A great job. Meanwhile, Johannes Eriksson struggling to try and get through that block. You can see it shaking and wiggling every time he hits it because he's got tons of power, but he's just having a tough time getting that axe back out each time those big power hits get it stuck in there. That just drags your energy out of your body. 2 more blows maybe, 1 more. Now it's going to be 2 more blows, and this drive should do it. Oh no! At the final thread, holding it on, and he drops it into 53.86. That's an unfortunate standing block chop for Johannes Eriksson, as that block just didn't want to go, and he had some huge hits though. Oh, and there's Josef Lyer again. He's going to be on his own as he was to start this competition. He'll be doing another chopping event alone on stage, the poor man. All right, Josef Lyer from Austria.
1, go!
Great accuracy on those hits. Look at that. He has barely stepped out of the line that he created there on the block. Doing a good job. Huge hits by him. No sticks so far. Looks very good for Josef Lyer. Getting in deep on this first side. He should switch over to the other side any second now. He'll clean that out and then move over. Yep, there we go. He gets onto the backside, passing the 33-second mark, though. That's not going to bode well for him. Needs to get that angle of the axe working, but he's moving it quickly now. In fact, it looks like he might have even picked up the pace on the backside, saving some of that energy on those first few hits on the front side to really go for it on the backside. But his time is struggling here as he'll do 1 more drive to drop that block off in 53.61. His accuracy was fantastic on these first blows on the front side, and then here you can just see he picked up the pace, but he was tired, and you can see with his final drive here, finally drops it. Very nicely done, though. All right, next heat in standing block chop, Alexander Maurice going up against Pierman Gnadinger. There we see Pierman Gnadinger from Switzerland.
1, go!
And on the right-hand side of your screen, Alexandre Maurice from France. France has been producing some fantastic axemen and Sawyer over the last few years. And it's Maurice moving over to the other side of his block before Gnadinger. Gnadinger still trying to get through on that first side, and now he finally moves over. Maurice, meanwhile, is just attacking this, doing a great job. Oh, final blow for 26-34 for Alexandre Maurice. And Pierman Gnadinger struggling now as he is absolutely spent with those final few blows. Oh, and a huge hookup for him, and that costs energy, but one drive more, and he is through. But fantastic effort from Alexandre Maurice. Look at that. A lot of power from a small man. All right, there's Kalle Svadling from Sweden. He'll be going up against Cyril Pabst from Switzerland. And you can see the comparison. Kalle Svadling, a little bit of an advantage in size, but his personal best is not as fast as Cyril Pabst.
3, 2, 1, go!
Both of these guys going in with huge hip swing and power hits on those blocks. Kalle Svadling right there, nice and close in on that axe, and you could see those axes are incredibly sharp. As you heard from the description, you can shave with these axes, they're so sharp. Kalle Svadling moving over to the other side a little bit after Cyril Pabst has done that, but Cyril Pabst has got a really nice swing and flow going. Not many sticks at all. Well, I spoke too soon as he gets one going right there and then finally drops the block in 32.85. Kalle Svadling not far behind in 8:36.66. You can see side-by-side shots. These guys are almost in sync right at the beginning. Kalle Svadling opting for a few more blows on that first side. Well, Cyril Pabst moves over to the other side of his block a little bit before Svadling does. And there, the final blow from Cyril Pabst to win that heat. All right, moving on to Ferry Swan up against Armin Kugler. How different can two people be? Well, that's the picture of it right there. Ferry Swan, 178 centimeters tall. Armin Kugler, 1.96 meters. He's a big man. He's got a lot of power. But Ferry Swan, if you watch this, you'll notice that he moves that axe quickly.
3, 2, 1, go!
And right away, Ferry Swan getting in there, using his long legs for a short man to absolutely drive his hips forward and twist that body core to move that axe quickly. Armin Kugler over to the other side with some big drives on his own too. Ferry Swan has moved over after Armin Kugler, and that means that Armin Kugler has a slight advantage here, but Ferry Swan is looking pretty solid. Who's going to be? Oh, it's going to be Armin Kugler with a 24.56, and Ferry Swan not far behind, with a 25.96. There's that final blow by Armin Kugler, and it's one stroke more by Ferry Swan, so he was just a stroke behind. A nice close heat there between those two guys. And now it's Pierre Puy-Barré coming out on the stage. He'll be going up against the Granddaddy Caddy, a legend in the sport, Christoph Geisler from Switzerland. Both of these guys have plenty of experience. Christoph Geisler is definitely the elder statesman in this case. 46 years of age and still swinging, and that is fantastic. Puy-Barré getting in nice and quick. Christoph Geisler has obviously been focusing on his fitness because his axe speed has increased since previous competitions, and he is not messing around. He wants to have a competition championship under his belt, and he does a great job here, moving over to the other side of that block. Meanwhile, Pierre Puy-Barré on the far side of your screen there, left side now, is really getting that block shaking on the top. He should get it through first, and he does. In a time of 29.64, Christoph Geisler in a 32.58. Look at this final drive from Geisler. Wow, through like butter. And there it is from Puy-Barré. Nice job. So standing block chop, Armin Kugler with the fastest time. Ferry Swan right behind him. Alexander Maurice sitting in third with Guillaume Maurer and Pierre Puy-Barré rounding out the top 5. And look at this, Ferry Swan holds on to the top spot in the overall standing. Christoph Geisler stays in second, so not a big change in the overall. Pierre Puy-Barré holding on to 4th place. But remember, it's the top 8 guys that move on to the next round. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc from a 40-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success. The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around 1,500 euros. Starting us off in round 2, and in the single buck we have Kalle Swadling going up against Guillaume Maurer. Kalle Swadling definitely with the advantage as far as personal best time is concerned, a good 4 seconds faster than Guillaume Maurer. Here, you have to have flow and power and endurance. Let's see how they do. And right away, Kalle Swadling getting into that saw, using the entire length of that 2-meter single buck to really work through that block. And Guillaume Maurer doing a great job. His cuts are a little bit shorter, but it's Kalle Swadling with a 14.74 and Guillaume Maurer just over 17. You can see here, it was a great quick start by Kalle Swadling on the far side there. And Guillaume Maurer did a good job, although his cuts were choppy at the very beginning. He did start to use the entire length of the saw. All right, moving on to heat number 2, and we have Cyril Papst from Switzerland going up against Alexander Maurice from France. Now remember, in the heat we saw earlier, you have to use that entire length of that saw to your advantage. Here we go.
Your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And a good start by both of these athletes. Maurice on the right-hand side of your screen, Papst on the left-hand side in the red. And both of these guys doing a great job. Maurice really working the entire length of that saw. Oh, look at this. He's getting down to the bottom, and Papst got stuck. He had to restart, and it's Maurice with an 18.17. Papst just behind with an 18.37. Both were doing great, and in fact, Cyril Papst from Switzerland looks like he had the faster saw, but at the very bottom of his cut, he got stuck, and that slowed him down. And we move on to heat number 3 in single buck with Pierre Puy-Barré going up against Armin Kugler. Pierre Puy-Barré, by the way, has a personal best of 11.50 seconds. Armin Kugler, a 13.11. So advantage here would be to Pierre Puy-Barré. But, as we know, in competition, anything can happen.
Ready, stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Now Pierre Puy-Barré, Armin Kugler, both starting off very nicely. Puy-Barré right there getting deep into that first cookie here, or the only cookie they're going to cut with the single buck. Armin Kugler, doing a great job there, but it's Pierre Puy-Barré with a 13.65 and Armin Kugler with a 16.74. Nice cut by Puy-Barré, and you can see, he's happy that's done with. Just the lip. Next heat up, we have Ferry Swan from Sweden going up against Christoph Geisler from Switzerland. Christoph Geisler, double the age of Ferry Swan, but also with plenty more experience than the young man. And again, we have age versus youth and vigor, experience versus a little bit of inexperience. Let's see who plays out here on top.
3, 2, 1, go!
Really nice start. Ferry Swan going for an aggressive quick stroke. You can see he's not using the entire length of the saw, but he's so fast that I don't think it really matters to him. As we look at Christoph Geisler, he is using the entire length of the saw, but his strokes are much slower. And Ferry Swan with a personal best of 15:07, Christoph Geisler with a 17:58. And here you can see the difference. Christoph Geisler using the entire length of the saw, but Ferry Swan was so quick on his short strokes and it just took advantage of that and used his speed to beat the elder statesman. So, in single buck, Louis Barret with the fastest time of the day. Kalle Swadling right behind him. Then Ferry Swan, followed by Armin Kugler. And that means we have a little bit of change of the guard in the overall. Louis Barret moves back up into second place. Christoph Geisler moves down into fourth. Ferry Swan holds on to the top spot, so he's looking good. Springboard. Springboard simulates the traditional way of felling trees, climbing up over thick roots. First, notches known as pockets are chopped into the log. 2 springboards are then anchored into these pockets. The athlete then climbs up to chop through a 27-centimeter thick block of wood in the fastest time possible. First heat in springboard, Kalle Swadling going up against Guillaume Maurer. So the slider, Guillaume Maurer, should have a bit of an advantage once you're on top of those boards, but the power of Kalle Swadling, if he can get those boards placed well, will definitely be an advantage for him. But the big deal here is making sure you get a good pocket and a good placement of the board so that the board doesn't sag too much and you got a really good position for your feet. Otherwise, you're going to end up using your arms and your shoulders to swing that axe as opposed to being able to push off of that back foot. Here we go.
Timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, setting that first pocket is key to make sure that you can get your board in place. Kalle Swadling looks like he's satisfied, clears out the junk, and puts his board in. Meanwhile, on the other side, Guillaume Maurer is already up, but Kalle Swadling's got a good position on his board, and now both gentlemen are setting their second pockets up. Maurer taking his time to make sure he's got a good pocket. I think that was about a 6-hit pocket. Can't be sure, though. I didn't really see the whole thing, but he's got a great angle on that board. So he should be able to push off of that back leg very nicely. Kalle Swadling still struggling to set that second pocket, and that gives a huge advantage to Maurer, who is already up top. That was a lot of hits to set that pocket for Kalle Swadling, but he's got a good board position. Hopefully that doesn't sag too much as he gets up on top. And there you see Maurer already working well deep onto that block on top of the second board. And Kalle Swadling, he is going for the odd angle here and moves to the better handhold position. And wow, look at that. Guillaume Maurer with a 1:36.20. That's a personal best for him in springboard. Still a pretty long time if you compare it to the world record time. And Kalle Swadling is closing in on 1:50 here. He needs to be done before 2 minutes is up, as he is really attacking that log from a weird side. One more drive, that does it. 1:57.34, just ahead of the cutoff time. So Guillaume Maurer, he had a great springboard position on the top there, and yeah, you can see he just got one little thread holding on, had to hit it one last time to drop the block in a time of 1:35.81, which is a personal best. And we move on to heat number 2 in springboard, and it's Cyril Pabst from Switzerland going up against Alexander Maurice from France. And again, the Frenchman with an advantage because of his size. And you can see his personal best is also a little bit faster than Cyril Pabst. Ton of preparation here as we get ready to drop the axe on these guys, so to say. Here we go.
Go!
If ever accuracy with the axe was important, this is it. And wow, Alexander Maurice with a great 4-hit pocket to get his first board set. Let's see if he can do that again on the top pocket there. He does. Wow. Fantastic set. 2 boards in quick succession for Alexander Maurice, although that second board is sagging a little bit on the backside. Not terribly, but he is going to need a lot more work on that upper body and not be able to push off that back leg and really use his hips to add power to the axe. So you can see that's going to get him tired real fast. Cyril Pabst on the other side, still working the top block of his set, but it's looking very good for Alexander Maurice from France as he switches positions and starts to work on the backside of his block up there. 2 really good pockets to get himself up there quickly and a definite advantage for the Frenchman here. 2 more drives should do it. 1 and 2, and there it goes. 1:00.79 and a personal best for Alexander Maurice. And now Cyril Pabst moves over, switching his position as well, and starts to work on the backside. He cut really deep on the front side, so it shouldn't be long now, and he gets it done in 1:13.47, and that's a personal best for the Swiss man too. Great board placement by the Frenchman. And there you see Cyril Pabst. He also had a nice first pocket, but just wasn't quite fast enough. Next up, we've got Armin Kugler going up against Pierre Puy-Barré. And I think I actually saw Pierre Puy-Barré crack a little grin in that picture there. Unusual. He's a funny guy though, really. Two big boys. Advantage for the big guys. They got lots of power to swing through for the blocks. Disadvantage in a discipline like this with the springboard is that you really need to make sure that that board is set.
3, 2, 1, go!
Pierre Puy-Barré. Oh yeah, very nice pocket set by Puy-Barré and by Armin Kugler as well. First boards are up for both of these guys as they set pocket number 2. And as I said, it's incredibly important for these pockets to be really good so that those boards can get in and hold strong. You don't want to be 2 meters above the ground holding a razor-sharp axe in your hand and have that thing start to sag. First of all, it's going to mess around with your headspace, and second of all, if it sags enough and slips out, you're falling down a long distance with a deadly instrument in your hand. So there is a lot of danger in this discipline here. And Armin Kugler, he is really going at that block with a lot of speed of that axe. It's a great job by the Austrian, and he is switched to the other side already. But it's Pierre Puy-Barré also on the other side. Armin Kugler with a distinct advantage. Oh, yeah! And he drops the block in 53.86. That's the first guy to go under a minute today, and that's a personal best for Armin Kugler. Pierre Puy-Barré finally does it in 1:03.48. Fantastic job by Armin Kugler from Austria. A personal best and the fastest time of the day, and that is the time to beat. All right, final heat in springboard, and we have Christoph Geisler going up against Ferry Swan. Another age and beauty battle coming up here with these two guys lining up against each other one more time. If we looked closely at the personal best times by both of these guys in springboard, both of them are under a minute. However, Christoph Geisler has a 53.06, Ferry Swan a 59.20. Let's see how this pans out. And here we go. All right, both of these guys getting their pockets set on the bottom fairly quickly. Now I can hear that Ferry Swan is still hammering away there as he is on his second pocket. Yeah, he's already working on his second pocket there, so he was quick to get up on that first board, and now he's got his second pocket set. And look at the angle of that board. That is perfect. He's got enough angle there so he can push off of that back leg and really add power through his hips into that swing. Christoph Geisler, meanwhile, is struggling to get that second board place, and he is well behind Ferry Swan at the moment. Ferry Swan with a distinct advantage, having a great board position and a long time to work on the front side of that block. And now he's moved over to the odd angle backside. It shouldn't be long now before he cuts through that Yes, done and dusted in 52.34, and he's happy about a personal best in springboard. A great job by the Swede, Ferry Swan. Christoph Geisler not going to get his personal best today, and he is really struggling to get through, but he's got a good board position. And now switches to the backside, and at this point, he just needs to drop that thing, have a fair cut, and get some points under his belt for this discipline, because he knows he hasn't got a very good time. Should be 2 more drives to get this done. There it goes. A 124.81. Not the best performance from Christoph Geisler today. Ah, yes, but Ferry Swan happy with a personal best of 52.12 after the adjustments have been made and called official. And there you see the final blow. A quick look at the clock and the celebration. Great job. So, springboard is done and dusted, and so is round 2. Ferry Swan with 16 points winning that discipline. Armin Kugler in second place, and that means Ferry Swan has a solid lead at the moment ahead of Pierre Puy-Barré. Armin Kugler still in attack position in third, and Christoph Geisler well back with 39 points in fourth place. So, hot saw will be interesting. Hot saw. For the hot saw, power saws are called into action, and the athletes have a space of 15 centimeters to cut 3 complete discs off a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. Jumping the start or cutting over the line will result in a disqualification. These custom, handmade race-tuned machines are built for maximum power and precision and to cut the wood as fast as possible in a competition. They are built with a 60 to 80 horsepower single-cylinder 2-stroke engine, often taken from a snowmobile or high-powered motorbike. The hot saw can weigh up to 30 kilograms, and its chain rotates at over 250 kilometers an hour. The cost of a competition hot saw used in STIHL Timbersports is upward of 6,000 euros. Yes, the make-or-break discipline. First up will be Kalle Svadling, and we are going to see only one athlete on stage per heat with these customized, super mad powerful saws. These things are so finicky though. Anything can happen. You can have a false start. The chain can come off. We've seen it all. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right, looks like 3 solid cookies on the deck for a time of 6:72 for Kalle Svadling. And he had a good start. That first cookie, pretty thick, but no drama there. He kept everything nice and easy. Good thin cookie for the second one. Risky as he came towards the top there. And on that third cookie, made it thick again. He had a little bit of space to play with, and he kept it safe for 3 on the deck. Next up, Alexandre Maurice, 32 years old from France. His personal best in hot saw is 6.46. You'll also notice the different styles of saws out there and different styles of blades. That's the section there that holds on to the actual chain that cuts. Some are a little bit more bulbous, some are straight like that steel blade, and here we go with Maurice. Oh, a miss on the downstroke, but he realigns and gets that third one. That cost him some time as he had to go back up and reset. Watch right here. He had to take his time to reset that one, finally gets it loaded in, and controls that saw nicely on the way down for a time of 8.04. But you can really see that saw likes to wrestle with you. Next up, Christoph Geisler. Plenty of experience for this gentleman right here. His best time, 6:10. Go! Wow, that something bit in there and just drove away. Oh, he's got a half-cut cookie. He's going to need to go and recut another one. That means he's got 4 cuts, and that's going to kill his time, a 7.94. But he did recognize that he had a halfway cut cookie. The cookies need to be complete. Right there, you can see a drop. And then he cuts his 3rd and eventually goes back up to cut a 4th to make sure that he had a fair and legal time. 7.91 after adjustment, and you've got to be impressed with that considering as he cut 4 cookies. All right, next up, Armin Kugler from Austria up next. His best time, 7.06. And you can see he has got a pedigree. The 5-time Austrian champion, 9th place in the individual world championship is his best so far there. Looking to improve on that every year, and he gets going with the hot saw. A little bit of a pause delay on each of those stroke changes, but he's got himself a time. After adjustment, it's 7.16 seconds. Not his personal best, but he really took his time here to make sure that each cut was on point. All right, second to last athlete in hot saw, we have Pierre Puy-Barré from France. His personal best is a 6.32. Also a 5-time champion in his home country of France.
Stand to your timber.
And there you see Armin Kugler on the hot seat right now as the fastest time of the day and the leader in the overall standings. And Puy-Barré gets his cuts going here. Oh, came close to the line, but safe is he. It looks like 7.87 is his time there. Really nice first cookie. Thin is the way to do it. Oh, excuse me, that was the 3rd cookie. And boy, he came close to the line on the final stroke out. But he was fair in all 3 cookies. And now we move to Ferry Swan. One of the youngest competitors out there at the pro level at 23 years of age, but already gaining some serious experience. Personal best in hot saw for him is 8.50.
2, 1, go!
So if he can get a good time here, he will be the champion. Let's see if he can beat Armin Kugler. 7.81, a personal best. Yes, he's first, and that means he wins the competition here. Great job. Let's take a look at this again. Look at that saw just bite in there, pulls the whole motor towards that block as he cuts that 3rd cookie. And he'll take a quick look at the clock and then into the camera, celebrating what he knows to be a good time and the win in the overall. So in the hot saw, Ferry Swan, not with the fastest time, but it was enough to gain him points to take top spot in the overall standings. And that means he has got himself 74 points, just up above Armin Kugler with a 65, and Puy-Barré will be number 3 on the podium with 60 points. A great job by the young man from Sweden.
Si, je suis très content d'avoir été 3e. Je pense que j'aurais pu faire mieux, mais je me suis loupé sur quelques épreuves, mais super content de ma place.
Og in Summe var så sehr solider, super Wettkampf und mit der Platzierung bin ich sehr zufrieden.
So Armin Kugler is happy with 2nd place, but the Swede, Ferry Swan, deserves the win today.
Thank you. It's an amazing feeling to get the victory here. It's really awesome.
And that's all she wrote for the first ever STIHL Timbersports 4 Nations Cup in 2020. Thanks for watching, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, goodbye and take care.